Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Apologies for yesterday. I had absolutely no voice. Today is a little raspy, as if I were a chain smoker or something. I'm not, but something happens with the voice sometimes. Maybe I should talk less. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a peaceful Thursday. We're nearing end of the week. A dramatic week, but also tomorrow, Trump is ending on a big note, meeting Zelensky. Nothing is expected from that meeting, and we're going to dive in to see why do I say so. So we have a new feature here where your comments will be popping up right on stage in real time, right here. So please comment. Hey, Sean, howdy gang. Happy Thursday, actual factual. Yes, indeed. Hashtag actual factual. Again, we're going to talk today about national news and global news as well. So first, we're going to dive into a federal judge blocking Trump's willingness to lay off thousands of federal workers. Then we're going to talk about what does Trump administration do to the IRS. It's weaponizing it against liberals and Democrats, to preview the notion. We're going to talk about pro-Hamas messages infiltrating the airports in the U.S. and Canada. Also, India is fact-checking Trump. He lied yesterday that he spoke to Modi, and Modi said he's not going to be buying any more oil from Russia, and they made sure to begin the day by fact-checking Trump. Russia is welcoming North Korean troops to fight on their behalf in Ukraine. And then, of course, the infamous at this point phone call between Trump and Putin today. I have the videos and snippets of him now commenting on that. He had an announcement at 3 p.m., which was regarding the IVF treatments, that it will come from a specific company with a discount. Then also Russia versus China and North Korea. How are they actually taking control of Eastern Russia? And then we're going to talk about China's dark factories. What is that? It's physically dark. And also Hamas handing over hostages, and AI giants and BlackRock actually announcing a $40 billion data center deal. So that's what's for today. Let's get into major headlines. First, federal judge on Wednesday ordered the Trump administration to immediately halt efforts to lay off roughly 4,000 federal workers during the ongoing government shutdown. This ruling, or they ruled this move unlawful. The decision comes after the Office of Management and Budget warned that layoffs could climb north of 10,000. Last Friday, the administration began issuing reduction in force, the RIF, notices across multiple agencies following a September memo instructing departments to prepare for mass layoffs in the event of a shutdown. Now, unions argue that government is illegally exploiting the funding lapse as a pretext for targeting programs favored by Democrats. And honestly, it kind of looks like it. It also looks like they artificially are extending this this pause. Now, we also have some breaking news. So I did report on that about an hour ago because I've heard a rumor. Now it is confirmed John Bolton is indicted over handling of classified information. Obviously, Trump is on his revenge tour, and this is the next victim here. Bolton, a Trump aide turned critic, is part of a string of presidential foes to become prosecutorial targets. But his case gained momentum in the Biden administration. We have also another piece of breaking news, which is kind of, upsetting for the reasons that we don't really have people remaining to fight the regime and the illegal actions of this regime. And what do I mean by that? Head of the U.S. military Southern Command is stepping down. Admiral Alvin Halsey, who is leaving less than a year into his tenure, had raised concerns about the recent attacks on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean Sea, one official said. It says that he's retiring. Maybe he was let go. But while in office, he did voice his opinion. He tried to fight against it. I know a lot of people are coming now at him saying, why don't you stay and fight? You try that. He voiced his opinion. For that, afterwards, it was announced that he's now retiring. So again, we'll have to find what the details are, but it kind of doesn't look like, he was giving up before being let go. So now next, about the IRS. So the Trump administration, is preparing a sweeping changes to the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, that would make it easier to launch criminal probes into left-leaning groups, according to officials familiar with those plans. And how do they plan to do it? Obviously, then they need to change the leadership. So, senior IRS official has reportedly complied a list of potential targets, including major Democratic donors. The proposal aims to install Trump allies in the IRS Criminal Investigations Division, the so-called IRS CI, right? Criminal investigation, reducing the role of IRS lawyers and potentially opening the door to politically motivated investigations. The changes are being driven by Gary Shapley and who is advisor to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And by the way, Bessent is now also overseeing not just the Treasury Department, he's Secretary of Treasury, but he is also overseeing the IRS, which makes it even more so. Which leads me to this, I guess it's gone now, but this ice sculpture has been installed in front of the U.S. Capitol. Of course, you see here the word democracy, but it was in ice. It's slowly melting as a symbolic commentary on the state of American governance. And, melted now. I posted it with somber music, and, it does meet the moment. Now, as to Israel and Hamas, obviously Trump solved gazillion wars. He did not. Ceasefire. Do we have a ceasefire? We certainly don't have a peace. We don't have plan. We don't have an agreement. What they signed was a declaration of willingness to be good. I posted it. Onest Network got a hold of the actual agreement. I did post it, so please read it for yourself and make your own mind about it. But unauthorized pro-Palestinian announcements praising Hamas and attacking Trump and Netanyahu were broadcast at 4 airports in the US and Canada on Tuesday, triggering investigations into potential cyber intrusion. The hacked messages disrupted operations at Harrisburg International Airport, Windsor International Airport, this is Ontario, Kelowna International Airport, British Columbia, and Victoria International Airport. Now, quote by Sean Duffy, who is our Secretary of Transportation / NASA. He says this is absolutely unacceptable and understandably scaring travelers, said Duffy, adding that FAA is working to get to the bottom of this hack. certainly might have been anonymous. Now, we're going to come back to Palestine issue in a second, but first let's talk about India, which was kind of very embarrassing this morning. Yesterday, while at the Oval Office, Trump was, of course, chatting with the press. And he said that, by the way, Modi just called me this morning and he promised me personally that he will stop buying Russian oil. He did promise me that. I put the video in the news briefing. By the way, if you're not subscribed, please go ahead. It's free. There is no, absolutely no, where do I have it? Yeah, where do I have it? Yes, here. There is absolutely no paywall. Just get your factual, actual news Monday through Friday to your email. And then on Sunday, we have No Politics. So, No Politics edition newsletter about culture and art and the latest in entertainment. So, but I did post this video yesterday of Trump saying it, and I also added to yesterday's briefing that we don't have any other sources telling us that, well, this is a fact, that they, in fact, even spoke. And so, well, this morning, India came back swinging. First, they posted on their social media. They pushed back against Trump's assertion that Prime Minister Modi promised to stop buying Russian oil. Official spokesperson Shri Randhir Jaswal stated, quote, India is a significant importer of oil and gas. It has been our consistent priority to safeguard the interest of the Indian consumer in volatile energy scenario. Ensuring stable energy prices and securing supplies have been the twin goals of our energy policy. And, it's very poised way, not to mention Trump, not to mention anything, but kind of to say, well, we will do as is best for us, right? America first. Well, this is India first. But then the foreign ministry also stated that there is no record of a phone call between Modi and Trump, that it in fact even happened yesterday. So literally fact-checking the president of the United States. Speaking of oil, speaking of Russia, Putin is speaking. In a recent speech, Russian President Putin acknowledged a sharp drop in gas exports, but claimed, quote, our gas exports are down, but they will grow. It's great news that Europe no longer buys Russian gas. We now sell to more promising, responsible buyers. Well, I'll buy the steep discount. They're literally selling everything to China at price value. So take several seats. Meanwhile, Russian sovereign fund head Kirill Dmitriev has been tweeting and hinting on this very friendly relationship between Russia and the United States, even before Axios, that was first to report that Trump were to speak to Putin, and then Trump started tweeting about that as well. He tweeted, quote, the dialogue lives on despite every attempt of warmongers to sabotage peace. Stay tuned. I want you to keep in mind the word warmongers, because this will be then repeated in Orban's tweet when he will confirm the meeting between Putin and Trump to happen in Budapest, which is obviously Hungary. So also this morning, Trump announced the willingness to create Ukraine Victory Fund, which prompted so much praise from European media sources, from everybody, who is wholeheartedly supporting Ukraine. To which I say, look, to label something the way you love, the way it will it will make you pleased, that's one story. But before you know where those funds go and where they come from, please keep your pants on and, don't be so excited about it. So again, the label is Ukraine Victory Fund. And then you know where the money comes from. He wants to charge an additional 500% tax on imports from China. This is you and I and anybody will pay this price if we decide to still buy those products. It's a 500% markup to already existing tax right? This is sort of an import tax, essentially, on our American importers, and it's bypassed to consumers. So he wants us to buy overpriced Chinese products, and from that extra money that we pay, he wants to put it in Ukraine Victory Fund. Now, we don't know where this money will go to because he keeps saying that Europeans have to buy military equipment for Ukraine. US will not spend a dime. So, on what exactly will you be spending your Ukraine Victory Fund? Also, my final question is, how many of us will be prompted to buy those products at 500,000% markup? Will you be able to afford it? Now, Trump on tariffs, quote, "We are allowed to do whatever we want. We just had presidents that didn't want to do it for whatever reason. The reason might be constitution, but okay. Of the 8 wars, tariffs are directly responsible for me ending 6 of them. Well, 5 or 6. It's unconstitutional. Yes, Trump is connecting those tariffs to national security. Yes, he connected it to fentanyl, to pass on tariffs on Canada. Has nothing to do with that. Already Trudeau was the one fact-checking him on that. For that, he was called governor. Right? Keep your head on a swivel. All right? Keep up with that. What does it have to do with national security that we're passing 500% tariff on Chinese shoes and t-shirts and gifts for kids and whatever, right? Whatever production we dislocated to China for decades, making it our big, merchandise producer. So, rather than national security, tariffs have to be voted on and approved by Congress. And the Congress is unplugged at this point, and nobody cares. And now he can do whatever he wants. Which leads me to this. There will be no Kings protest this Saturday. I asked you to email me. Thank you so much. I got hundreds of emails. I will send the Dropbox link tonight by 9 p.m. Let's put the deadline to it. And so you can upload your content. Please mention if you want to be credited or not, meaning do you want me to mention your name or you want to stay anonymous? And the email to is in our news briefings was yesterday. It will also be featured today. So I can't wait to cover it in real time. I thought about going on the streets and start covering there, but I think we will make far bigger impact if I don't report from one city, but rather we have live stream and I upload and show right away the footage from different cities. And we have not just America, we have Canada, we have not just United States of America, we have Canada, we have also European countries, we have folks emailing and promising to send footage. So this will be global, this will be great. I have to put a timestamp on when we're going to go live, meaning when it starts. Obviously, Europe is going to be first to begin with those protests, and then US will follow with California sort of a bit later than New York. So I have to see once I get enough footage to go live and present, we will be live. I don't care how long this will be. I'll cover it all. I'll show you footage. We need to, most importantly, give voice to those people whose content and coverage will not be shown on major networks. This is first. And second, for those even who didn't go to a protest or perhaps are not capable of going, but are desperate to see that there are other people who are like-minded, who believe in democracy, who are peaceful, right? Because there's this notion about the protest here, stay peaceful and all that stuff. I'm going to put it in your newsletter, right? But we need to see each other. We need to feel that there are like-minded people, because the voices of those that really want destruction are so much louder and are so prompted by the algorithm. So we need to see that we're not alone. So for that reason, I'll be live. I have to say again at what time I'll begin, and then I don't care how long this takes. And I am still getting a lot of emails from you. So thank you so much for doing so. Check your news briefing in your email, and then you can tap and email me, so you'll get the link to the Dropbox. All right. So then, of course, Trump spoke to Putin. He first tweeted this, essentially saying that, hey, I'm on the phone. Oh, come on. I'm on the phone with Putin. I'm speaking to him now. You can read it here, but my question is, was he on the phone and like, hey, Vladimir, please hold on, I got a tweet? It's like, like somebody who's very, very excited to be on the date that they admire, and they're like, hold on, I got to tweet everyone that I'm on a date with you. Okay. Well, afterwards, he tweeted that it was a very productive call, during which a Russian leader congratulated Trump and the U.S. on the great accomplishment of peace in the Middle East. Trump added that this success would help end the war with Russia and Ukraine. Obladi oblada. He said they discussed trade and agreed to a summit of top advisors next week. This will be Rubio and Lavrov, horseface. And a follow-up meeting between Trump and Putin in Budapest. Then Orban, jumping for joy, tweeted, I just got off the phone with President Trump. Preparations for the USA-Russia Peace Summit are underway. Hungary is the island for peace. Remember what that head of Sovereign Fund of Russia said, that warmongers will keep us apart, but we will stay together. Now Orban says Hungary is an island for peace. It's not an island. How is Putin going to fly to Hungary? The guy who's being indicted by ICC, International Criminal Court, the killer of children and civilians, the killer of more than 1 million of his own people, will be flying over several zones, right? And so every single country in Europe will just greenlight his plane to pass on the way to Hungary. How much more are we going to bow to international criminal? The Kremlin confirmed that Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov will meet to prepare the summit. Analysts say U.S. appears to be retreating from a tougher pro-Ukraine stance in pursuit of an elusive peace deal, with Putin once again buying time through flattery. Well, retired U.S. Army General Jack Keane said on Fox News that if Tomahawk missiles, those that can strike deep inside Russia, were delivered to Ukraine, their first target would be the drone production center in Yelabuga, Russia, allegedly staffed by 20,000 North Koreans, which is potentially would be very much against North Korea, already planting the seed that no, it's not going to be a good idea for Trump to give Zelensky Tomahawks, because what if they kill North Koreans and Trump is the best buds with Kim Jong-un and writes him those love letters? And then Trump spoke himself. He was asked at that IVF announcement at the Oval Office, he was asked about the Tomahawks and his talks with Putin. Take a listen.
Everybody that ended wars. I ended 8 of them. It's going to be 9. I think we're going to have this one done, hopefully soon. But I'll be meeting him probably over the next 2 weeks. First, Marco is going to be meeting. And the vice president, as you know, is very much involved. The whole team is involved. Steve Witkoff will be involved. Yeah, please.
What did you tell him about the Tomahawks? Did you discuss the Tomahawk missiles? Did you?
We talked about it a little bit, didn't say much, but I do say to you, we need Tomahawks for the United States of America, too. We have a lot of them, but we need them. I mean, we can't deplete for our country. So, they're very vital. They're very powerful. They're very accurate. They're very good, but we need them, too. So I don't know what we can do about that.
So, but then he was asked, how did he bring it up in a conversation with Putin that Ukraine wants Tomahawks? Mind you, this is United States of goddamn America. During World War II, just imagine Roosevelt gets a call from Stalin. Stalin wants help. And Roosevelt says, I gotta call Hitler to see if he doesn't mind me helping you. And so he calls Hitler and has this type of talk. Just keep that in mind when you listen to how this went down with Putin and Trump today.
Right, but did President Putin try to dissuade you from selling Tomahawk missiles?
Well, of course. What do you think he's going to say? Please sell Tomahawks?
No, but did
Is he going to say, please sell those Tomahawks? I really appreciate it. I did actually say, would you mind if I gave a couple of thousand Tomahawks to your opposition. I did say that to him. I said it just that way. He didn't like the idea. He really didn't like the idea. No, I said it that way.
Roosevelt calling Hitler and saying, hey, do you mind if I help Stalin and all this? Do you mind if I... Trump also said, well, on tomahawks, we need the tomahawks for the United States. We cannot deplete. We need them too. So I don't know what could be done about that. Nothing will be done about that. By the way, Zelensky already arrived in Washington, D.C. He will be meeting with Trump tomorrow. We don't have the time slot, but I'll post his Trump schedule as soon as I get it, per usual. Now, Trump also revealed plans to meet with Putin in Budapest, and he said Witkoff is going to come, Rubio is going to come. He downplayed the difficulties of peace negotiations, saying the problem is that for some reason, Zelensky and Putin don't like each other too much. Trump added that he intends for this to be his 9th war that he will settle. Now, the Ukrainian General Staff reports that North Korean military units are operating in Ukraine's Sumy region, conducting drone reconnaissance and adjusting Russian artillery fire from across the border in Kursk. Also, Russia launched 26 Iskander M missiles, ballistic missiles, overnight, the largest such barrage since the start of the full-scale invasion. According to Insider, all missiles were modernized models and none were intercepted. And this all goes to Ukraine. Now, meanwhile, China is very far in terms of their advancement in production facilities. So far so that Western executives now returning from China, they were on a trip. It was a business trip where they were exposed to those so-called dark factories. They're not dark because little kids work there. China has those. It's not that. There are fully automated production plants running even without lights or human workers. Here's a quote by Ford's CEO. This is the most humbling thing I've ever seen. He witnessed a phone assembly plant and run entirely by robots. And so he said, like, look, while we deal about, with tariffs and like Stellantis, right, willing to, I don't know what the latest is, but this morning I wrote an article. They were shutting down the plant in Ontario, dragging it to U.S., killing 3,000 jobs in Canada, and then they're facing possible legal challenges on that. And then they had a call with Prime Minister Carney, and then he said he got assured by their CEO that this is not going to happen. But altogether, we're dealing with this while they are so far advanced. Now, China's foreign ministry has been also posting all day, every day, but especially today, and essentially just fact-checking, accusing United States. I'm nowhere near pro-China, but in this case, we have to pay attention to it. So China's foreign ministry urged Washington to engage through dialogue and mutual respect rather than bullying and intimidation. Beijing defended its new export controls on rare earth magnets and components as necessary to prevent diversion into weapons of mass destruction, while accusing the U.S. of deliberately exaggerating the measures and engaging in extraterritorial coercion through rules like 0% on de minimis policy. And this is what kills small businesses. Because, yes, we talk about Shine and all this, TikTok shops that used to import tariff-free those cheap products. But it also kills American small businesses, right? Because maybe you produce something in the United States. Like I was talking to somebody who does jam and at scale, and they produce jam, but they buy the lids and, like bottles and stuff from China. So this is still imported, and labels and stuff. So this really affects the pricing and does affect the American consumer. Right? It doesn't mean that the whole product has to be made in China. Parts of it also raises the cost or kills the markup for those businesses, making it very difficult for them even to stay afloat. Okay. So as to Hamas, I promised to come back to that. So Hamas returned 10 bodies of Israeli hostages. They promised to return 28, right? 20 living hostages were returned on that day, fateful day on Monday. But 28 remain, well, the bodies of those remains of those who passed in captivity had to be returned. They returned 10. They said they need more equipment to recover additional remains, delaying the next phase of the ceasefire. Now, two Trump advisors said they do not believe Hamas violated the deal, noting it's almost impossible for them to reach all the dead hostages. Meanwhile, Hamas has launched a bloody crackdown on rivals with videos showing public executions. So essentially, we have to keep in mind that Hamas right now in Gaza is holding complete control. So this sort of peace deal went south. Israeli families are burying at this point their loved ones. Rest, one father said, after a journey of 2 years in worlds unknown to us. Negotiations continue over proposed stabilization force for Gaza, with Indonesia, Azerbaijan, and Pakistan among the top contenders to contribute troops. Trump also said he's about to send 200 U.S. troops, but they wouldn't be entering Gaza. And then somehow this also was sort of canceled out. Nobody spoke about it. Now, meanwhile, a consortium of BlackRock, Nvidia, Microsoft, and xAI, Musk, will acquire aligned data centers for $40 billion. The deal underscores the race to expand data center capacity as AI demand for computing power skyrockets. And which leads me to this. On Friday, tomorrow, we're holding our second off the record briefing. This is for all subscribers who are subscribed to Onest Plus. You can join, choose the lowest subscription thing. YouTube made me make 3 layers, but use the cheapest one. It's the join button underneath this video, and you'll be invited to those off the record briefings every Friday. We're meeting at 5 p.m. Tomorrow we're meeting at 6 because it's my travel day. And then every last Friday of the month, this month is on Halloween, so you can come dressed. We are meeting on Zoom. So really not just off the record, but off the grid. We can see each other, have happy hour. You can ask questions. And also I'll reveal what I cannot reveal on live streams. And so for tomorrow, we're talking about BlackRock, Blackstone, and the Beijing connection, how global power really works. So we're diving into BlackRock and Blackstone, especially not just what they control. Yes, I'll talk about that too, but necessarily how did the shift after war in Ukraine? What did Larry Fink say? What their strategy is? How did that shift? And then about Beijing, there's a huge Chinese embassy in the middle of London, and we're going to talk about it. What's the threat of that, and what's the state of affairs here, and why are they aiming to do so? So if you're interested in off the record briefing, please join for a month, see if it's for you, and I'll meet you there tomorrow. So quick national news. Trump administration plans to redirect terrorism prevention funds away from Democrat-led states and towards Republican-led ones. According to government records, the overhaul affects $1 billion program created after 9/11. So literally relocating funds from New York City. Now the U.S. budget deficit narrowed $41 billion, reaching $1.775 trillion in fiscal year 2025. The Treasury Department said revenue rose by $118 billion thanks to Trump's tariffs. Now, the Supreme Court is weighing whether the U.S. Constitution should be considered colorblind in a case challenging the racial composition of Louisiana's electoral districts. The ruling could significantly impact civil rights remedies for racial discrimination. And, there's some maps already released, and I don't want to push this agenda unless they really vote for it, which would be obnoxious at this point. I think Constitution of the United States was created so we treat each other equally, but especially since slavery being part of the such big part, an essential part of U.S. history. So, but altogether, there are maps now. If this were to pass, how the redistricting would affect states like Florida and Texas and southern states, which really would make it very Republican, make it very hard for Democrats to win the House in 2026. Now, as to Trump and IVF, he proposed policy expanding in vitro fertilization, IVF, access, according to New York Times. They reported it first, then Trump did announce it. In February, he signed executive order directing the government to reduce IVF costs and broaden availability, which again led to some questioning from far-right groups that are anti-IVF, Christian groups specifically. He was asked about that, and he said, well, kids are kids, people are people, and sort of kind of, didn't want to answer that question at all, not to get himself in more trouble. Now, meanwhile, though, a reproductive rights group warned that $4 million worth of U.S.-funded contraceptives stuck in Belgium, right, at their warehouse since Trump froze 4 and 8 in January, could become unusable by mid-2026. So we don't allow, right, we don't invest in contraception, but we invest in IVF. So just have children, regardless how, right? And then also rape and incest. That's another story as well. So that's heavily promoted by the right-wing story. My question is only, who can afford children? That will be the next question, right? And if women go on a date and their rights are not protected, will be women willing to even go that far? Right? That all has consequences. All those policies have consequences. So yes, IVF cheaper, good. Are we solving other problems? Now, Senate Democrats blocked Republican-backed bill that would have funded the Pentagon for a full year. Efforts to restart parts of the federal government as the shutdown entered the 16th day. And can you blame them? Because we are driving up the cost for our insurance. We're cutting insurance for a lot of people. Premiums will go up. Medicare, Medicaid, what's up with that? But we want to fund Pentagon because we want to, bomb Venezuela. B-2s were flying and B-52s flying over Venezuela for hours yesterday. We are bombing boats and fishermen, turns out, on those boats, killing 27 people, right? With no jurisdiction, with no process, even. We don't even know who those people are. And so we want to fund the military while we completely don't fund ourselves and our people, right? Who with their taxes are sponsoring the military. So please make that make sense. Now, nearly 24 states are suing Trump administration over its decision to cancel $7 billion grant program aimed at expanding solar energy access in low-income communities. And internal documents show that some federal law enforcement personnel, including Border Patrol agents and customs officers, will continue receiving pay during the shutdown. And there was a big hoopla yesterday when Trump, or day before yesterday, when Trump said, well, donors, rich people are calling me, offering to pay for military. Then he essentially used the food stamp money today, as he revealed, to pay the military. And again, cutting people short, prioritizing this. And I'm sure, I'm advocating for military to be paid. I'm advocating for everybody to be paid and for government to function and not to be unplugged. But you see where the priorities are. So, and now we have those agents being paid despite people being furloughed or forced to pay and questioning whether they're going to be even facing some back pay. Now, Los Angeles declared state of emergency in response to federal immigration raids, allowing local officials to distribute financial aid to affected residents. And the State Department revoked visas for at least 6 foreign citizens accused of celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And also the Justice Department asked Meta to remove Facebook group where members shared information about ICE agents in Chicago. The company complied with the request, obviously. And on the good note, Governor Newsom of California stated that starting January 1st, Californians will be able to buy 5 packs of insulin pens via CalRx or CalRx, CAL, California, for no more than $55 per pack. The Trump administration also plans to lay off staff at key federal birth control office, potentially leaving millions of low-income women without contraception access. Again, fits the module. And Delaware Supreme Court heard oral arguments on whether Tesla should pay Elon Musk $56 billion, marking a major development in this years-long legal battle over his compensation package. Now, if we go to quick global news, Trump will visit South Korea from October 29th to 30th ahead of APEC summit in Seoul starting October 31st, which leads to us understanding he's not staying for the APEC summit, nor he's meeting with Xi Jinping, but again, will have to be confirmed. He's also going to Malaysia and Japan as well. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said U.S. will seek equity stakes in strategic industries to counter China's economic policies and export restrictions. And then they call folks like Mamdani communist. Can we Google what communist is, and can we see how you are fighting China by resembling China? Also, Trump confirmed that, yes, he has authorized CIA to conduct covert action in Venezuela. Quote, "We are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control," Trump said. U.S. naval operations have killed now at least 27 people. And now I want to show you a foreign report where they question that 2 of them actually came from Trinidad and Tobago and had not much to do, actually nothing to do, with drug cartels. Take a look.
2 men believed to be Trinbagonians were killed in the latest U.S. drone strike of Venezuelan waters. And now Alas Cuevas' family is demanding answers.
They say Chad Joseph wasn't a trafficker, just a young man trying to come home. Jensen Levent went to the fishing village to speak with the family.
Like most of the men gathered here at the Las Cuevas fishing depot, Chad Joseph was a fisherman. Both his relatives and residents are denying strenuously that he was involved in drug trafficking. They say his killing was unjust.
When Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar said the United States should kill alleged drug dealers violently, no citizen was listed among the dead. On the U.S.'s 5th airstrike, Trinidadians Chad Joseph and another man identified only as Samaru were among 6 people killed on Tuesday, taking the number of alleged narco-traffickers killed by the U.S. since September 2nd to 27. Joseph's grandfather, Cornell Clement, who denied his grandson was a drug trafficker, says he has no choice but to trust in God. Now he questions the U.S.'s method of dealing with the situation.
I watch it as wickedness. So why we killing people children for? They're not meant that way. They're supposed to be that way.
As you see here, right? Habeas corpus, and then, when Trump was asked about that, he said, habeas who? And that matters. 27 people, and as I mentioned, this circus travels. This circle also enlarges its operations. So if we, the citizens, do not question the methods will be implemented elsewhere. Also, 3 B-52 bombers, as I mentioned, were conducting orbits in international airspace near Venezuela on October 15th, yesterday. A major show of force amid U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean. And then today, you see the head of operation resigning. Now, China is increasingly importing soybeans from Brazil instead of U.S., raising concerns about the impact of Brazil's rainforests. Because, they don't really want to push production of soybeans, but because China turned to Argentina, turned to anybody but United States, it starts affecting more than just the trade aspect of it all. Meanwhile, hundreds of South Koreans lured to Cambodia by fraudulent job offers remain missing. Many kidnapped, tortured, and killed. This was an online scam operation. By the way, this is quick global news, so I quickly go through different subjects. In Afghanistan and Pakistan, they declared a ceasefire following a week of deadly border clashes. Again, had nothing to do with Trump. Chinese citizens are criticizing a government plan to attract foreign scientists. As you see here, we are imposing a $100,000 fee in addition to all the fees to apply for H-1B visas. And so those scientists are now attracted to China. And as I mentioned, you don't have to have a job offer. You offered hundreds of thousands of dollars for your living expenses just to arrive and work. Even if only what you need to have is education in math, and any kind of science. And so now Chinese citizens are protesting against it, many of whom of them struggle to obtain U.S. visas. Once again, Chinese citizens are criticizing government plan to attract foreign scientists, many of whom struggle to obtain U.S. visas under Trump-era policies. Right? And this will be the shift. That's why in U.S. you always had, in Europe you had this joke. How does American university look like? And they said it's Russian Jewish professors teaching Chinese. This was a running joke. I know it's racist, but it's a running joke in Europe for decades because there was such a big influx of Russian and Jewish and Christian and Russian altogether speaking professors flooding the United States, finding jobs, and altogether building this or attributing to this big economy and the American dream, so to speak. So now it all shifts to Asia. As to Gen Z, I mentioned earlier, youth-led protests were in Kenya and Morocco and Madagascar, and Gen Z is asking for medical care and for jobs, essentially for stability. And it reflects their deep frustration with government policies and, it's economic stagnation and whatnot. So these protests are already ongoing for weeks. And Madagascar, for instance, president fled the country, then claimed yesterday that no, he's still in charge. But altogether, they do achieve their purpose, at least for now, questioning the status quo. Now, as to Trump and his $200 million ballroom, he held kept dinner yesterday where he showed the Arc de Triomphe and called it Lady Liberty. I posted a video about that. But altogether, his construction continues despite the government shutdown. It will cost $200 million. It's a 90,000 square foot ballroom at the White House. At the Legacy dinner, he also revealed that this will be all glass, sort of like Apple Store type of story, which really represents some type of a question for national security. And how does it optically look next to the White House? As to Norway, Norway has opened Camp Jomsborg in Poland to train Ukrainian soldiers, hosting 200 plus Norwegian instructors and offering both basic and advanced courses. The project is part of Operation Legio, a NATO training initiative involving 8 member states and 10 billion NOK, right? The Norway funding. Now, Canada boosts oil exports to China, again seeking different partnerships rather than U.S. They shipped 5 million barrels of oil from Vancouver to China in the first half of this year, or the first half of this October. It's a record volume historically. Over 70% of Canadian crude exports are now heading to China as Beijing cuts U.S. imports. And as to Syria, President Ahmed al-Shara told Putin yesterday that Syria will honor previous agreements and discussed new energy and infrastructure projects during his meeting in Moscow. He also asked for Assad to be extradited to Syria to face prosecution. Putin wasn't into it, but Putin said that I will support Syria the way I supported Syria before. He said we're motivated to care about Syrian, citizens. Obviously, he supported Assad when he used a chemical weapon against his own citizens. But again, will Russia get back to their Bagram and other bases, especially Air Force Base. That remains to be seen, but sort of looks like it. Now, a 48-hour ceasefire followed deadly border clashes. ISIS and Al-Qaeda are reportedly attempting to reestablish a foothold in the region, in Afghanistan, Pakistan situation. So we'll see what this will hold. But 48-hour ceasefire has been established. Now, as to African Union, they suspended Madagascar following military coup. Colonel Michael Randrianirina is expected to be sworn in as transitional president. And the U.S. will help mobilize not just $20 billion for Argentina, and Trump made sure to underline that it will be personally for Milei. Unless he wins, Argentina is not going to get that money. And so not just 20 billion, now additional 20 billion. So altogether, $40 billion of U.S. taxpayers' money will be used to bail out personally Milei. And Trump called him as a big economist and has the great vision. But why do you need $40 billion bailout? Now, deadly protests also continue in Peru. Protests against insecurity and government inaction continued after ouster of President Dina Boluarte. One protester was killed and over 100 were injured in Lima. Please check more global coverage in our newsletter today. I don't want to read all of it, but I want to end up with this. As to Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service warns that China and North Korea are rapidly expanding their influence in eastern Russia. Moscow risks losing control of nearly 40% of the region. Chinese investment could reach 1 trillion rubles by 2025, fueling a creeping demographic expansion. Up to 2 million Chinese citizens now live between Vladivostok and the Urals, forming enclaves with minimal Russian labor participation. And by the way, there were videos from Vladivostok when a Russian reporter, was trying to speak to people on the street, and they all look very Asian. But nobody could speak Russian at that point, because it's been established for a decade at least, where Chinese would move over the border, get jobs, become mayors, be elected officials, and then essentially take over without firing a single shot, take over Russian territory. And yes, Putin goes with that because China helps him in his fight against Ukraine. Now, meanwhile, North Korean workers, 15,000 officially and up to 50,000 unofficially, so 15,000 officially and 50,000 unofficially, are increasingly vital to infrastructure and development projects in Russia's Far East. This dual dependence, economic on China and labor on North Korea, may eventually pit Moscow's two closest allies against each other, weakening Russia's sovereignty over its own eastern territories. So, right, remains to be seen, but Putin is getting himself in such bigger and deeper doo-doo just because he wants to win, 1% more of Ukrainian territory, and certainly he can't now go back, because that would be embarrassing. And so what do we expect from the meeting between Putin and Trump? More flattery, more red carpets. Now Orban, count on it. He's going to roll red carpet to both of them, and Orban will be the big host. Another bunch of nothing. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow, I'll meet you for... hi, Michael. Hello. My head is swimming. I don't know how you do it. Oh, thank you. I also have fever, and it's a weird week. I'm sick. I have voice, no voice. Yesterday I could whisper. I had a very interesting interview and I whispered half of it. So I'll release it in about a week. I have to somehow up the volume in that interview, but it will be out. And so tomorrow we meet at 6 p.m. Please, 6 p.m. Eastern, travel day. And we're going to talk about BlackRock and everything. And I learned today about everything they do and everything they control. Now, Michael, that made my head spin. Listen, and Michael, thank you for being a subscriber. I see it here, so I'll meet you tomorrow. Thank you. Honestly, the way we walked into this and how we are playing unconsciously such a pivotal part of that entire global empire, so to speak, and how it is controlled. When I learned that they own both Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And tomorrow I'm going to use it as an example how they control the market, because whoever wins that, right? Because one goes up in price, one goes lower, one has this flavor, another flavor. Regardless who wins any type of battle, they win. And this is the approach that they apply now to countries. And we're going to get into Larry's, background and how he failed and then learned and how he changed his strategy, and the Aladdin whole platform that runs it. That made my head spin. And I thought, oh, wow, that's interesting. So without any fear mongering or anything, just facts. We're going to learn it. We're going to discuss it. So for tomorrow, now you're going to get your news briefing. Tomorrow, you're going to get your news briefing. And then since last off the record was like 2 hours, I will not include the news of the day, but we'll focus just on the Beijing, the China embassy in London and the BlackRock, Blackstone, Vanguard, that story. And then you can read the actual news as well. So it's not that long. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I will see you tomorrow. And if please join us, try it out, Onest Plus. If you don't, I'll see you on Monday. All right. Have a very, very safe evening. Thank you so much.